Hello, I wanted to speak to you today about an important subject which is called humorously the narcissistic boat. And this information or opinion about being in a relationship boat with very narcissistic people is important for us to consider because often when we've stepped into a relationship boat with anybody, um, we often get caught up in a whirlwind of the romance and attention and the potential of finding love that we can become blind to actually what is happening in the situation. So, considering the narcissistic boat as being an exception is an important thing to do. And one of the indicators that you may have stepped into a narcissistic boat is that you may be required to do an inordinate amount of service or admiration and love bombing the other person, because this ability that you have could have been the reason why you were chosen to enter the narcissistic boat in the first place. Because very narcissistic people tend to like people who have an awful lot to give, because they have an awful lot that they expect in their relationships. And although initially it could seem to be a really generous deal that you're being offered, more often than not, if you're dealing with a very narcissistic person, they tend to like relationships that are not reciprocal, and they tend to like one-sided relationships. Although they may be very enamored with you in the beginning because you seem to be giving them lots of love and attention, should that attention and love be withdrawn in any way at all, and should you need to have some needs of your own met, for a very narcissistic person, this is really not on the table, because very often they don't have a lot of genuine giving to offer to relationships, because they haven't been conditioned in their own life by themselves or by other people in order to give that. So they come quite often with their hands out, wanting someone else to do all the rowing in the narcissistic boat, whilst they possibly not only do not reciprocate, but possibly over time, especially if they see that you have very little to give because you're becoming exhausted or you've sort of wised up to who they are, they could introduce some behaviours that are more abusive than encouraging and building up. And so the first thing to really look out for when you stepped into a narcissistic relationship boat is to see whether you are expected to do most of the giving, or whether you are in a reciprocal relationship long term. So consistency in their giving over a very long period of time, which is devoid of abuse or disrespect, is quite a good idea in any relationship, but particularly with a narcissistic relationship, which is often set up initially based on an awful lot of love, bombing, and attention coming your way. And this is to give a false perception of what could be on offer down the line. However, some very narcissistic people do not have that ability to give a lot of love, even in the initial stages, which is why some narcissistic people are down low, and they tend to be more passive and unable really to give very much initially at all. So those types of narcissistic people tend to sort of hook into our generous nature, or even our maternal or paternal side, in order to draw us into the narcissistic boat. So, um, becoming aware early on that you're in a narcissistic boat is quite a good idea so that you can dive out quite quickly and to save yourself an awful lot of energy and trouble down the line. And also to learn as much as you can about narcissism. I personally have studied narcissism for my own benefit and for the benefit of others for about 17 years now, and I found it very beneficial in my own life to do that, to just become very aware, especially in these days, um, what it feels like to be in the narcissistic boat with someone who's very, very narcissistic. So I wish you well with that. Do take care, and as always, stay safe and happy. Bye bye.